Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm back with part 6 of What If Naruto Never Stopped Evolving and Leveling Up guys. Remember to get this one too. 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, if you haven't seen it yet, I posted a brand new episode of What If Naruto Was an Uchiha Bastard, so go ahead, check out that and enjoy guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, yes, I indeed have 3 more channels which I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. All the links will be down in the description, so go ahead and obliterate that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification and see when I post, because I do post a hell of a lot. So without further ado or wasting any more time, let's begin this now guys. So the last part that we left off, Zoldyck had killed Anko to make Naruto lose his composure, which happened. The moment Zoldyck put an end to Anko's life, the seal that was on Naruto's body, it broke. You see, Naruto's evolution came in a need, a desire for him to evolve and become stronger. His body searched for the nearest possible host that he would need to become stronger in this matter. Even a being that was beyond this realm felt it. The literal Shinigami, the god of death, felt it. As Naruto transcend normal, mortal comprehension. Using the Death Reaper seal as an anchor, Naruto turned into an embodiment of death itself. Naruto sucked everyone's shadow away from them, stopping everyone, Orochimaru, the Sound for every single person. The only thing that was not stopped was the One Tails. As Naruto went after Orochimaru, Naruto ended up shredding Orochimaru's soul. Every single curse mark essence was gone. Yes, they were all destroyed. Sasuke lost his mark, the Sound Ninjas lost their mark. However, it was too late for them, so it made no sense. Naruto sucking the shadow away from everyone was affecting the civilians as well, but he wasn't in the state of mind to care right now. When the One Tail launched a massive Tail Beast bomb, Naruto was able to destroy chakra. Destroying energy was supposed to be impossible, but he did so. As Naruto ended up absorbing the One Tails, somehow Gaara was kept alive. Perhaps it was because of Naruto transcending life and death itself, becoming a pigment of both, and his touch kept Gaara alive. He crashed down to the ground. All Naruto wanted was to make them all suffer. As he was barely clinging on, that was the only reason why Gaara was spared. Returning back, Naruto started to drag the souls of all of the ninjas that were his enemies away. The Konoha ninjas were utterly and truly terrified as they saw the screaming, misguided souls being pulled away. It was horrific and horrible. Naruto ended up breathing back life into Anko with that. She returned, naked as the day that she was born, standing there, unable to believe what she just been through. As Naruto was losing every single aspect of himself, he was breaking apart. Whatever he had become was vastly too powerful, and he was losing control. Soon enough he was going to kill every single person within Konoha. However, Anko's words were able to break him out of it. As Naruto fought, he fought with himself. The problem was the Nine Tails and Kushina and Minato's chakra were all sucked inside as well. But that was a good thing for his side as they helped him realized who he was, and Uncle voice snapped everything into play. Naruto ended up passing out after, returning back to normal, transverting back into what he was. Zoldyck was watching all of this as he stood there, rather surprised, finding this unique transformation rather enticing. When Naruto woke up sometime later, he was in a prison cell. It did not take too long for the Hokage to come and speak to him. The people were calling for his death, exile or death. With Naruto taking away the shadows of many that was connected to their very essence, that made him so weak, the civilians could not handle it, and because the process was so long, majority of the civilians there died. So yes, it was a somber affair, and many were blaming him, calling for his death. Uncle wanted to rip them apart. He saved their life. After being told everything, he saved their life. They end up putting Uncle inside of a cell nearby because she started to attack the people that were chanting and calling for Naruto's death. All of the work that he's done, all of the achievements that he's made, all of it was simply flushed away in the toilet just like that. People saying that he was the same beast that caused their loved ones to die all those years ago, and now he's back, out of control. Danzo Shamura was pushing this because he wanted to use it to take the power away from Hiruzen. Hiruzen could not do it. There were people there from the land of fire that were important to the daimyo. Therefore, he too sympathized with asking for a death sentence for this child or exile him away from the land of fire, not knowing when he would lose control ever again as Danzo started to spread the agenda. As Naruto was able to evolve to hear Uncle's thoughts, he told her that he was sorry and told her to simply forget about him, but she shouted at him, saying that he was an idiot. He saved her, he brought her back, and he got rid of that mark. It doesn't matter where they would have to go, she would go with him. Naruto was shocked that she would give up everything to go with him, but she would do so without hesitation. They just had to get out of here. The seals could not hold Naruto as he evolved above them. Naruto could feel the Nine-Tails' power at his disposal as he broke through. He ended up breaking the wall down and grabbing Anko. As he saw the bird flying in the sky, all of the Anbus and Konoha ninjas were descending down upon them. He told Anko to trust him as they jumped. The next moment they were off like a bird, as Zoldyck was watching all of this. So yeah guys, basically let's left off, you guys can switch across the place, check it out for yourself. So to begin this new episode, things that went from bad to worse now that Naruto has escaped. Hiruzen had no choice but to actively search for the boy to try and bring him in. Even the Fire Daimyo requested that they put a stop to this boy before he lose control once again. Members of the main family from the Fire Daimyo's lineage was here to watch the exams, and they also died within the crowd. Luckily, some of the more important ones were able to get away. However, the entire village, the main civilian population, had turned against Naruto, despite a lot of them not being there. Outrageous rumors started to spread that he actively did this, that he was simply buying his time and waiting for the right opportunity to kill them all. And that is exactly what he tried to do. Hiruzen tried to find a middle ground between this, but the people were looking at him with such suspicions. Just like what happened in the past when Hiruzen had sympathized with Naruto, and that made him lose majority of his power. This time, he could lose the Hokage title, and he couldn't afford for that to happen because things would become a lot worse. So ninjas were now actively searching for Naruto. They were scouring the land of fire. The daimyo even sent a few of his people to try and find any trace of where the boy had escaped towards. It's been 50 minutes to be quite exact. They were no longer seeing anything in the air that meant he must have landed. How in the world was he even able to fly was truly beyond them, but he was somewhere in the land of fire and it was their duty to hunt him down and put an end to him. If they could not bring him back alive, they would have to take him out. When Jiraiya came to Hiruzen with some rather shocking news, as he opened the scroll, those who lost their life, their name will be crossed out of the summoning scroll. Jiraiya thinking that it would be the best way to get Naruto to mount Miyaboku. After all, they knew that Naruto's actions were accidental. He did not mean to kill or harm anyone that he cared about. He was just trying to take out the enemy, not to mention he did kill Orochimaru and stop the One Tails. However, the village was still thirsty for his blood. When Jiraiya opened the scroll though, he was shocked beyond his wildest imagination to see Naruto's name was crossed out of it. Both Hiruzen and Jiraiya feared the worst when they saw that, as that could only mean one thing. The worstest option of them all. He was no longer with them. Meanwhile, I truly don't know what to say. Ino Yamanaka said he wouldn't do something like that. It was Sakura that was defending Naruto, as much as the people were against what they had to say. Shikamaru Naru was there, Choji Akimichi as well. As everyone weren't sure what to think, they had heard some horrible things. With all of the rage going on, the information about Naruto's status had become publicized, and the kids were not so sure what to think about that. All of them had felt the dread and terror of the One Tails as well. However, Naruto had overwhelmed that with the amount of darkness that leaked from him, not to mention with the amount of people that died. Naruto has been nice to her. He saved her life on several occasions. Sakura could not just hang him out to dry. She hasn't seen Sasuke or Kakashi, but she knew that they wouldn't buy what the villagers were now saying. Hey, guys! They turned as they saw Kiba Inuzaka running up towards them, Akamaru nearby. Did you guys hear? Hear what? Ino asked, looking towards him. They said that Naruto escaped and that he kidnapped someone and fled the village. What? Sakura said. Meanwhile, deep within the land of fire, both Naruto and Anko were hunkered down. Naruto had evolved into flying. However, the attacks that they rained after him and Anko put her in jeopardy more than Naruto because of the compromising flying pattern. So they were forced to land, and now they were hiding, but they could not stay one place for too long. The Inuzakas, the Hyugas, they were their major threats, and the Abarames as well. Naruto's hearing had evolved to superhuman level. Beyond that, as he heard the footsteps, damn it, he said. Him and Anko getting back to their feet. We cannot keep on heading straight, Anko said. I have no doubt in my mind that they are the same word to those who are manning the border and those who are in the sections protecting the land of fire. The ninjas and Anvus that keep a valiant watch. So they will be looking out for us. So you're saying that we're surrounded, said Naruto. Pretty much, he said, as Naruto looked around, rather nervously. We're gonna have to fight, Anko said. Because if they capture us, I have no doubt in my mind that they will try to execute you, trying to put this on your charge of what happened in the earlier day. You can still leave, said Naruto, and said that I kidnapped you, and use that to get away. I know that you're worried about me, but I already told you. I'm seeing this through with you, to the end. Naruto released a heavy breath. He didn't want Anko to get hurt, and at the same time he wanted her to come with him. She was the closest thing that he had in this world. His relationship with her was closer than any other that he had come to meet. She was there when he had nothing. Despite the Hokage being there, the man was always busy, the both of them being mistreated, while his was on a more grander scale, and people believed that she was a lackey of Orochimaru that would betray them one day. She could see it in their eyes. That is what caused their original bond. and that bond has only gotten tighter over the past couple of years. Naruto still did not notice that. He had changed in a drastic way. Of course Anko had noticed, but it was not time to talk about that right now. As Naruto could hear the footsteps, there were two teams, one coming from the west, one coming from the north as well. Behind them there were another team, along with a dog, and three more teams along the west, with three dogs, Inuzakas. The moment Naruto took off with Anko, they would launch techniques after techniques against them, trying to take them down. And Naruto did not want to chance it. And he also did not want to kill the Konoha ninjas. They were simply doing what they thought was needed, but he wasn't their enemy. He wasn't their foe. He too was a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village. How could he prove that he didn't desire to cause pain and suffering in the future if he was to kill the remainder of the ninjas now? He couldn't do that. Hey, snap out of it, Uncle said, seeing him going too deep in his thoughts. We need a solution like now, she said, looking around. Something popped into Naruto's head. I have an idea, he said. Moments later, as the ninjas came down to the area, as the animals were sniffing around, all they saw was two birds in the tree. As they bypassed that and continued on their search, the birds flapped their wings and took off as they flew through the sky, making their way as the search continued. Sometime later, those said two birds landed down before their bodies started to revert back to normal. Anko looked the most surprised as she looked at her hands, her legs. She even lifted her shirt up and looked down. What the hell? How in the world did you do that, she said, questioning Naruto that reverted back to normal. She knew that he could transform into animals, but he transformed her into one as well. He scratched the back of his head, looking rather nervous to tell her, wait, don't tell me that what you just did was experimental. I had to, said Naruto, which caused her to punch him over the head for doing something that he had no idea what would be the outcome. It was good to have this little laughing moment between them, given the fact that they were currently running away from their village. It took a bit of the depression away, giving Anko fierce loyalty to her village, even going as far as to reject Orochimaru in the past. Anko blinked in shock, remembering something that she wasn't supposed to. Orochimaru had sealed away her memories. Yes, he had. So she wouldn't remember that she was the one that rejected him. She thought that he found her useless, but she had rejected his proposal. He found her too much of a valuable subject to kill, so he wiped her memories and left her there. How in the world did she remember that? She gazed towards Naruto, who was thinking on what to do next. It was probably because he brought her back from the dead. Ever since coming back, Anko felt completely different. Perhaps she knew that she owed Naruto for saving her life. That was a big part of why she wouldn't allow him to go alone. But she knew that she cared for Naruto deeply, and she didn't want him to be out here by himself and be hunted. But he also got rid of that mark, and he brought her back from the dead. Who else would be able to do something like that for someone that they care about? So she could not leave his side. She's been checking herself to see if there was any changes, if anything had happened to her, but so far, everything was normal. So she supposed that was a plus. With that, the both of them made their way as they continue on, getting away from the land of fire. The problem was, they didn't have anything. After all, they lost their belongings when they were locked up. So they had nothing, no money, nothing at all to survive on. But they could not go home. They lacked the necessities, clothing, food, anything at all. And they could not enter certain places without proper identifications. So they had to think carefully on where they were going to go. Finding a stream, Anko was thirsty. As Naruto stepped over watching, when he blinked in shock, he spun around But there was no one there. What's wrong? Uncle said. Who the hell is that? Uncle looked up towards him. I suppose our stressful situation is over, so we can finally talk about. What the hell happened to you? She said. What do you mean? Look. Naruto looked down into the water, and Uncle was right. His once pristine blonde hair was turning white. Why? Not to mention his soulful blue eyes were becoming a darker shade of what seemed to be a pitch black. Naruto was confused by his appearance. He was taller. Now it made sense why he left Uncle so easily. Naruto took off his shirt. Even Uncle was surprised. You could see from the widening of her eyes, as his body looked more muscular and filled out, looking like he was in his later teens. What the hell? Naruto said. At first, when you broke down the wall, I thought you weren't Naruto, but those markings are a dead giveaway. She reached up and felt his cheek. They seemed to be fading, she said. Given the fact that he wasn't wearing a shirt anymore, and she was rubbing his cheek, he started to blush slightly, causing her to tease him. It seems like it wasn't just your appearance that changed. As Naruto turned around, turning his head, he was looking at his hands, still in amaze and shock to what truly happened to him. I have to know, she said. What exactly happened? Naruto released a heavy breath, as he had a good idea. You know that my body constantly evolves to help me in any situation. I recently found out that my evolution is something much more powerful. It's a desire of need that I need in that moment. When I saw you, I lost it. When I was fighting Zabuza Momokai, a piece of his blade chipped at my skin, and my body studied the material and evolved to the ability that the blade possessed, which is to consume blood and regrow itself. I suppose I needed to bring you back so much my body reacted to the seal, it absorbed it. She looked at him in shock. So where's the nine tails? It's gone, said Naruto. It seems like in the process my body also absorbed that. I never thought I could do something like that. I can't feel the nine tails anymore, but I can feel its power. You saw how easily I used it back then to break the wall down. When I thought I lost you, I lost my composure. I could feel myself being ripped apart, whatever I turned into. A subject of death, whatever I did. It was too powerful, and I couldn't control it. This was the first time I ever evolved, and I could not control my evolution. I suppose some things are just too powerful. Well, for the time being, said Naruto. The more time that passed, the more control I got. And when I heard your voice, when I brought you back, you brought me back, said Naruto. My feelings for you, how much I cared for you, was able to quell that hunger that wanted to absorb every single soul around me. I'm not sure what happened to the other souls, but I figure that it's the reason why I've changed so much, Naruto said, looking himself over. Anko was looking at Naruto strangely. With the words that he just said, Anko always saw Naruto as someone that she needed to protect, someone that she needed to take care of, because she knew that, just like her, people were seeing him as a monster for something he had no control over. So she destined herself as some sort of guardian for him. But now, looking at him, how much he has grown, and the words that left his lips about how much he cared for her, they started to stir strange emotions inside of her. Emotions that should not be there, but now, as she looked at him, looking like he was about 18 or perhaps 19, his pulsating muscles, she shook her head vigorously. What the hell was she thinking? It was Naruto. She told herself, immediately, disregarding those thoughts. He risked everything to save her life. As he spoke about the experience, how he felt like he was being ripped apart, Naruto looked towards Anko strangely. "What's wrong?" "What is this?" said Naruto. "What is what?" she said, looking at herself. He stepped towards her as he got really close. She wasn't the type that usually clam up. The type that get nervous. She was the type that made other people nervous by her personality and the things that she do, but here she was actually getting nervous for Naruto. What the hell was wrong with her, she thought to herself. Never expecting this at all. However, Naruto could sense something inside of her. Something powerful. As he stepped towards her, having absolutely no idea what he was feeling, but he felt something. She herself was confused. "A strange force within you," said Naruto. "What? How?" she said, checking herself, checking her neck, but there was nothing there. "I brought you back from the dead," said Naruto. "Yeah? What about it?" she said. Something like that wasn't supposed to happen. Or should it be possible? There could be some side effects. "I know, and I've been checking for them since. You brought me back, but I haven't found any." "You think something is there?" she said, looking at him. Naruto released a heavy breath. "I'm not sure." "What are you getting upset about?" she said to him. "You brought me back and you saved me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here right now. If anything, I'm grateful," she said. As Naruto looked at her, "Alright, but if you feel anything or anything is strange, just let me know." "Sure thing, Mom," she said. Naruto released a sigh, happy by her attitude to turn things easy once again. However, they had to keep on moving. Anko was a bit worried as they traveled. She noticed that the changes that were taking place with Naruto were happening right in front of her eyes. He was never this tall when he broke her out of the prison. He had grown significantly since then. Not to mention his hair had gotten longer, and it had gained more white flakes, becoming almost white completely. The markings on his cheeks started to vanish. It was like he was transforming to something completely different. His once blue eyes were now an extreme dark shade of blue. If you did not look closely, you would think that his eyes were dark. At first, Anko thought that Naruto might have exchanged his own life force for hers, but it wasn't the case. As they've been traveling, she saw that the process did not occur after. It came to a stop. But when it did came to a stop, Naruto's blue eyes were no longer there, replaced with deep obsidian dark. And his once blonde hair was now white. He did not even look like Naruto anymore. And the whisker marks that once plagued his cheek were so faded that they were barely noticeable. They seemed like tiny scratches on his cheek. He looked like a different person, a fully adult, grown individual. As they moved, Naruto felt it as well. He felt the exact moment when his body simply stopped aging. Yes, he didn't know how, but he knew. His body had stopped aging. His white hair was something that he did not expect. He had no idea what was truly happening to him. Perhaps it was because he harnessed the power of death, the lasting side effects. However, he refused to die, because if he did, Anko would be alone. And there was no way, absolutely no way he would allow that to happen. So he has to survive. Time skip. There was a group of bandits. After another wonderful haul, stealing, gathering all that they could. As they were located within a dense forest area where they had made it an underground secret passageway. There was a lot of them down there, led by a man that was once a ninja, now a rogue. He was rather muscular and tall. hailing from the land of stone. They called him the Boulder, as he was in charge of all of these men here. They had gathered quite a hefty sum, stealing from many and selling all the girls that they recently kidnapped to a very secretive underground businessman. So yes, they were currently flush with cash. Unfortunately though, his demise happened when a snake snuck into his underground passageway. The snake was not alone. It was followed by a hawk that landed down on a tree. The snake seemed to give the hawk the signal as it descended downwards. Immediately, it returned back to normal before delivering a swift, brutal kick to the one at the entrance. The snake immediately wrapped around the other one's neck after curling up on the individual, causing them to pass out. Unfortunately, they had no choice. It was none other than Naruto and Anko, and besides, this did not belong to them. They were bandits. They stole it, so they could justify their actions by simply taking back what they need to ensure that they survive, because they had nothing to their name. This wasn't really for Naruto in terms of eating wise, because he barely eat and sleep. He would eat for the taste, not for the hunger. His body had evolved to not needing food to keep himself alive anymore. He barely even go to the bathroom anymore. In fact, since the Chunin exams, he couldn't remember going to the bathroom anymore. He's long since evolved beyond that. Yes, he has. So with that, both Naruto and Anko descended upon the group. They were bandits, while some of them were strong. When the Boulder saw what was going on, he descended down on Naruto, but the match only lasted for a few seconds. Naruto punched the man in his stomach. The man fell over unconscious. Naruto stood there rather surprised and confused, as he was caught off guard by his newfound strength. The bandit had tried to overpower him, but Naruto had simply removed his hand and punched him in the gut. He heard Anko calling his name out to look out, so caught up in his own new strength, as Naruto turned a metal pipe, slapped across his face. Naruto immediately hunkered down, expecting so much pain. Yes, he felt pain, but not much as he expected. He grabbed the pipe as the bandit swung once again. Naruto uppercut him as the man was launched above the goddamn trees. Naruto was shocked. His speed was on another level as he dodged away from 3 daggers thrown. He even picked them out of the air before they could fall and threw them back, expecting just to nick the person, but the daggers split through 3 of the thugs' head, going through skull like it was nothing. Anko was unable to believe what she was seeing. The mere fact that Naruto barely threw the weapon and yet it pierced through their head so easily. She spun around. "Hidden shadow snake," she said, as the snakes came from her sleeve and grabbed one of the bandits that tried to jump down on her. However, the next moment as the snakes bit him, he screamed out. Anko stood there in shock and confusion as she watched. The man's body suddenly went dry. All the substance and nutrients seemed to be sucked out of him. She immediately released him as he collapsed down to the ground, the others running away in fear. Naruto walked over towards her. What the hell was that? Anko looked at her hands. I have no idea," she said, having never done something like that before. Suddenly, she hissed in pain as she dropped to one knee. "What's wrong?" said Naruto, checking over her. She looked up towards him, feeling this rushing sensation, like something coursing through her a moment ago. Naruto looked deep within her eyes as he saw a flash before it vanished. Once again, Naruto felt that unknown energy coursing through her, and then it went away. What the hell? Neither of them knew what the hell happened, but they got enough to get themselves some new clothing and Anko some disguise. After all, Naruto did not look the same anymore, so it was just her left to make sure that she was unrecognizable by the populace if they did come across them. They had yet to think about or to say what they were going to do, but for the time being all they need to do was to survive and not be captured by the Hidden Leaf Village. Time skip. With things having settled down, because they were unable to find Naruto, Jiraiya decided to go out and find the kid, hoping that Naruto would want to tell his side so they could have a proper conversation, because the both of them knew that he was not dead. No corpse was found, nothing to indicate his death. Perhaps it was a transformation that he took that literally stole the souls of his opponents. That must had to be why. The scroll no longer recognized him as a user, as a summoner of toads. So with that, Jiraiya headed out, as Hiruzen would handle the front base here. However, things were not looking good. If anything, they were getting bad, as they wanted him to be branded a missing nin, to be hunted, because he was an enemy that killed a whole bunch of them and then fled the village. In the eyes of the populace and Danzo, who was pushing this, that is how they saw it. Nothing else and nothing more. So returning back to the village right now, well, that would be extremely bad. While that was going on, Sasuke Uchiha found himself training. As he was by himself, he hadn't seen Kakashi yet as of today. Sasuke knew that Naruto did not purposely try to kill anyone. I mean, come on, it's Naruto. He put his life on the line for this village before. He would not try to kill anyone. He was a Konoha shinobi through and through. He wouldn't try to kill his own people. Sasuke heard some of the things that they were saying about him, putting him out to be the monster, some kind of villain that enjoy slaughtering them. Sasuke and Naruto had been good rivals, which led to their rivalry friendship. Something that Sasuke has been using to gain more strength because of his desire to always best Naruto. Yes, Sakura was on his side, not believing anything that the people were saying. However, they had no idea about the Nine Tails, but they doubted that that was the case anyway, having their own opinion than the others that were simply following like they were some bunch of sheep and doing nothing about it, simply going along. Sasuke would simply continue to train, knowing that once they clear his name, he would be able to challenge Naruto once again to prove that in the time him going missing, he's been getting stronger. Thus he told himself so. It would not be seen like he was worried or anything, as he was not a fan of showing emotions, despite Naruto being one of his very close friends. Maybe his only close friend. The only one to keep up with his bullshit of ignoring people that annoys him. Yes. Meanwhile, that was going on. As time has passed, the hunt was still going on, but time has passed and so far there has been absolutely nothing. Both of them knew that they could not go anywhere that the Leaf would suspect them of being, so they had to keep off their radar at all times. They have of course gotten authority from the other nations already to perhaps expand their search into certain areas, not going on into other villages but into certain areas. Given how critical this was, the mere fact that the daimyo wanted a result out of this, not the Hokage but literal daimyo, the land of fire, wanted to take Naruto down as well. Hearing that delegates died during the attack as well made Naruto even more frustrated. So here the both of them were right now, having to get money in rather unlawful ways, taking it, as they were currently in a hotel, a small one, not too fancy, not too high-tech. They were residing in a village known as the Land of Hail, residing between nearby the Land of Sand and Kiri as well. The Land of Wind, that is where they were. Anko was looking rather different. Her once violet color hair was now completely black, and her pupilless purple eyes now had blue contacts as well. She even had to change up her wardrobe. That she didn't mind so much, but Naruto had to tell her to take into account how she dressed. She was a rather free-spirited person. Naruto was different, so that wasn't anything to spot him on. Starting from his white hair to his dark eyes right now, looking more adult and nothing like what he once was. The both of them reside in the same room at the moment, having been staying together, not sharing opposite rooms. After all, they had no problem with it. However, Uncle was the one to suggest that he sleep in the bed as well. Naruto wanted to take the floor, but she suggested that he sleep there as well, having absolutely no problem with that, as Naruto did not take any problem with it either, so here he was. They have gotten rather comfortable, more and more in the short amount of time, to the point that she was now resting her head on his arm, as Naruto was looking up to the ceiling, having spent the time talking about what they were going to do next, planning for the future. It was like two old married couple thinking about their future. She even made a joke about that. Naruto had not told her about Zoldyck just yet. Zoldyck had yet to return, as Naruto wondered if he was ever going to return. Perhaps he was not. However, he had other things to think about. So as they lie there, plotting on what to do next, the way things were set up, it seems like they were going to have to run for the rest of their life, because they did not know exactly how they were going to get out of this situation. How exactly were they going to play it so they weren't seen as the enemies? Well, Naruto mostly. He would have willingly sacrificed himself to ensure that she would be alright. However, that was the last thing that Uncle desired. Furthermore, Naruto checked. The seal was empty. The Nine-Tails was no longer residing anywhere inside. He released a breath as Uncle had fallen asleep. Naruto had gotten up as he made his way towards the window and opened it. He made his way on top of this building. As Naruto looked around, something has been bugging him. Someone has been watching them for the past few days now. However, Naruto could not put his exact finger on it. Whatever it was not human. It was some sort of creature. He could sense people. He could track people in many different ways, but this thing felt like it was the Earth itself. It was hard to detect, hard to track, and it was insanely fast as well. It seems like they have another problem they had to worry about, as Naruto wasn't sure what exactly they were going to do. While that was going on, a large group of people were gathered. They were the remainders of Orochimaru. Yes, some of the stronger members that were there. A woman known as Goren, who possessed the crystal release. Another known as Kimimaru, who possessed the bone release. They had gathered all of the remaining strong members. Orochimaru was dead. Kabuto, Orochimaru number 2, was also dead as well. They felt like it was their job to ensure that the one that brought Orochimaru down never live a single moment of peace. That is why they would be using every ounce of their power to find out who exactly this was and hunt them to the end of the earth. They already had the name of the person that killed their master, Naruto Uzumaki. While that was going on, Naruto Uzumaki, Zetsu started off his sentence to the leader of the organization. Zetsu has been monitoring Naruto, having more access to hunt and watch without being caught, simply using his ability to hide underground. Zetsu has been keeping tabs on Naruto. Therefore, there was no need for the Akatsuki to make their way towards the Hidden Leaf Village. Zetsu informed the leader of the organization that the Jinchuriki had changed drastically, giving him the new appearance and everything. Immediately, Kisame and Itachi were sent out to capture the Nine-Tails. Whatever the Nine-Tails had done, They were no longer linked to Konoha, so the two Akatsuki members shouldn't have a problem with kidnapping said Ninetales, as they were told not to fail him. Time skip. Both Anko and Naruto were making their way, trying to create as much distance between Konoha and themselves. That is when Naruto paused as he felt it again. "What's wrong?" Anko said. "Something's here," said Naruto. That is when he felt it. No hesitation, Naruto wrapped his arm around Anko and took off. However, someone ran, moving at insane speed and leap, meeting Naruto in mid-air and swung a colossal blade. Naruto released Anko and swing his fists. The two colliding shockwave create tremors in the sky. Flipping down, Naruto caught Anko and landed, as someone landed in front of them in the open wooded area where they could go all out. It was none other than Kisame, as Naruto gazed behind him to see a flock of crows coming together and forming someone. "Don't look in his eyes." Immediately, she looked away as she told Naruto. Anko knew exactly who that was. She was shocked, yes, surprised, that she would see someone like him here. "That's Itachi Uchiha," she said. "The one that massacred his entire clan." "What the hell do you pieces of garbage want?" she said. "We have no quarrels with you guys." "Huh, quite a mouth on that one. You never told me that you knew that one, Itachi," Kisame said with a smirk. "You guys are really fast, actually making me put in effort to chasing you down. However, the hunt is a lot better than getting to actually capture the prey. Well, at least for me." "What?" she said. "What the hell do you want?" said Naruto. "Naruto Uzumaki," Itachi said in that calm, weird voice. "You are to come with us." "He's not going anywhere with you," Anko said. "So why don't the both of you screw off?" "Huh. You know, I like a feisty woman," Kisame said. "Unfortunately though, we have our orders." "I'm just gonna shave off your legs so you don't try to run away," Kisame said, approaching Naruto. He dashed forward without hesitation. As Naruto gazed towards Anko, "Go," she said. Naruto moved in as his fist clashed with Samihata. Immediately, Samihata ripped out of its bandage. It tried to shred at Naruto's skin. However, Naruto's unbelievable strength gripped down on the scales and yanked Kisame and Samihata before delivering a punch that shocked the short man. Kisame felt like he was about to throw up his own guts as he was sent spiraling through the foliage. Naruto then turned his sights towards Itachi as he gathered breath into his mouth before exhaling. The monstrous wind release ripped through the forest like a thunder, a storm, a supernatural phenomenon. Anko was shocked by the amount of power that Naruto was casually throwing around. She knew that his strength had rose to unbelievable heights, but this was beyond her wildest imagination. "God damn," she said. "It's slipping out." Before she could utter another word, Naruto was about to pick her up to move off. However, a monstrous wave of water could be seen, Kisame riding on top of it as the both of them leaped, sending chakra to their feet as they landed on top of it. The man flooded the entire area. Naruto could feel the depths of his chakra, which was so humongous. He dived inside before speeding. He then turned as he went straight for Anko, using her as a leverage. As Naruto moved in, Kisame used it as a distraction to get behind him. Because the real Kisame was behind Naruto, that was simply a water clone. He hit Naruto across the goddamn water, Naruto's body skipping across it like a stone. Kisame swam so fast that he bested Naruto and came up, sending Naruto into the sky. He spun in mid-air and delivered a brutal, dropping attack. And he wasn't done yet. He gripped Samihata and brought Samihata down. The entire surface of the water exploded into the heavens as Kisame was getting a lust for the battle, and he might have overdid it, he thought to himself. As the water refilled, Naruto seemingly sinking to the bottom of it. He knew that the leader was going to be pissed if he ended up killing the Nine Tails. Perhaps he took it a bit too overboard. As Anko raced towards where Naruto was, Itachi appeared in front of her. She tried to engage the man, but he was faster, stronger. However, her specialized fighting style kept her in the game as she did not look into his eyes, which was extremely difficult to fight him like this. He went through hand sign in a flawless pattern before exhaling a giant fireball towards her. As Anko jumped away, running towards the trees, he appeared behind her and said branch and swipe. She flipped away and jumped downwards. As she had to evade him, Anko flew through hand sign and release snakes from her sleeve. They shot towards Itachi, who sliced them down. He wasn't the only one with a fire release as she sped through hand sign and release tiny fireballs. The numbers were large. Itachi ran through hand sign as well, clashing hers with his, cancelling out the effects of both. As the fire died down as he stood there so calm, they felt it, tremors going through the earth. Anko did not look behind her, not taking her eyes off Itachi's feet. However, the monstrous upturn of power showed them that something was wrong. Something was gravely wrong. When Naruto came out of the water, he was pissed as his body reset itself, showing just how powerful Kisame was, just how great his strength truly was to be able to damage Naruto after so many evolutions. Naruto's body was pumped. His blood was flowing and running. His skin had turned crimson like blood, like he was about to burst. When Naruto descended upon Kisame and dropped his fist upon him, Kisame tried to use Samihata to withstand the blows and absorb the chakra from the strange transformation, but this was no transformation. This was raw, unbelievable strength. Each punch caused the earth to tremble like it was having an earthquake in this section, and Naruto dropped around 50 of them in the span of a couple of seconds. Kisame severely underestimated Naruto, which caused him. His shirt, his Akatsuki clothing was ripped to sunders. His skin looked like it was about to be melted off his bones. The raw pulsating agony that he was going through, as Samihata used a chakra that it had stole from Naruto to try its best to heal Kisame. As Naruto raced towards him, Kisame summoned the water and released a powerful short shockwave technique. As the thing hit at Naruto, Naruto was fighting through it. It ripped his clothes. It snapped his right arm back, breaking it. However, Naruto was still pushing through. Kisame submerged Naruto, trying to break him down. It shattered Naruto's shoulder bone. Kisame had his arms outstretched, pushing an absurd amount of water with such a dense force, trying to overcome Naruto, but Naruto started to punch. A simple slow fist at first before he punch and punch and punch. Wind started to gather around his arm. Along with his super enhanced strength, each blows that Naruto punch started to create a vacuum that started to open up a space between the two colliding forces. By the time Naruto's fists started to move like they were blurs, and Kisame dug deep for that chakra, there was a collision like none other. Both Anko and Itachi had to move from where they were. The entire place was ripped to sunders. A blast, an explosion unlike any. Naruto started to dig even deeper as he tapped into the power of the fox, causing the chakra to swirl as Samihata felt it, Kisame felt it. not expecting to do something like this, but he wasn't facing a child, he was facing an adult with unbelievable power. Kisame actually smiled as he pulled out one of his most devastating and deadly techniques. Anko was truly baffled as she was submerged. Itachi had fled a distance further than her. She could not breathe. She had to hold her breath. As Naruto saw her, he raced towards her, but Kisame was right behind him as Kisame knocked Naruto, moving at such an inhuman speed as he tear across Naruto's chest. He was now half man, half shark. Not leaving so soon. We're just getting started, he said, in his inhuman tone. Naruto continued to move towards Anko, but the power of the tailed beast and his own chakra was being siphoned away from him. As Anko was trying to leave the spear, Naruto realized it was moving. As he realized that, it was this thing. It was Kisame. The more he moved, the water followed him. That meant Naruto turned the opposite way and started to move. However, Kisame continued to chase after Anko. Yes, he continued knowing that Naruto's chakra was being sapped. So was Anko as well. Perhaps doing so to just piss Naruto off. To show him that he was a superior one in their current battle. No, said Naruto, as he was completely fine. Naruto was breathing because he had gills at his neck. His body had long since evolved how to breathe underwater, so there was not a problem there. As Naruto was trying to best Kisame's speed, but majority of his strength and power was being sapped the more he went. When Kisame looked behind him and smiled, he then extended his hand like he was about to tear Anko into pieces. Refusing to let that happen. A monstrous amount of power exploded out of Naruto. Kisame paused as Anko's eyes widened. What the hell is this? Kisame said. As Naruto's power was not being siphoned by the dome anymore. In fact, Kisame felt all the chakra that he absorbed so far slowly leaving him. What the hell is this? Kisame thought, when suddenly Naruto's fist splashed in his face. The first thought that went through Kisame's mind was, how did Naruto reach him? Naruto did not stop there as he bested Kisame, moving at least 10 times faster than him in the water. As Naruto had simply evolved, his swimming technique passing abnormal levels, excelling beyond the level of any sea creature. Not to mention, his whole chakra system had evolved as well, as it was siphoning every single chakra particles around him, similar to what one does when they absorb sage energy technique. However, in this case, Naruto was absorbing Kisame's technique by absorbing every single ounce of chakra out of the water around him. Naruto's fists were pulsating as he let loose. Each punch that he gave the short man caused blood to spiral from Kisame as Anko fell down to the ground. A look of absolute shock was on her face. Anko did not have a lot of chakra. She was certain of that. Majority of her chakra was taken. For a moment there, she actually almost blacked out and she started to breathe. She could swear that the water entered her lungs and she couldn't feel anything anymore. Next moment she was out. But she was fine. She looked at herself as she noticed strange black markings on her hands, which seemed to completely vanish away a second later. What the hell? As she looked into the trees, she noticed Itachi standing there, observing the battle and not engaging one bit. Kisame made a vast, stupid, very stupid attempt by going after Anko. I won't let you hurt her, said Naruto, his rage overtaking him as the man bashed Kisame's skull in. Naruto controlled the lightning in his body, remembering that surge before he released it all. A violent shock wave The entire water exploded outwards, first imploding on itself. As this was all Naruto's doing to spear Anko. Naruto landed, his whole body steaming and his remainder of clothing electrified, looking like a half human, half fish. His hands had the webs in between them. They returned back to normal as Naruto made his way. Samehata and Kisame defused right in front of his eyes. Kisame was bloody. He was a mess. Samehata tried to send its chakra to him, but Naruto gripped Samehata, both of its half before he released a roar and ripped it to sunders, tearing the blade apart. Kisame tried to get up, but Naruto stomped into his face. He picked Kisame up by the throat. Naruto held his hand out before. The veins in his hand pulsated as he punched Kisame's head clean off. Naruto dropped the corpse as he collapsed onto his hands and knees, taking deep breaths. His body started to evolve in that moment as well. As Anko raced towards Naruto, she did not even notice as something flew from Kisame and flew directly into her. As she rushed towards Naruto, checking on him, he was fine, just a bit out of it. He too got electrified in what he just did, but his body had gotten a lot stronger. "Are you alright? Where is the other one?" "He ran away," Anko said, noticing something strange in the battle a moment ago. "Come on," she said, helping Naruto up. "We have to get out of here." Meanwhile, watching like the observer that he was, Zoldyck had a smile on his face, using his Byakugan to keep track of them. "Good," he said. Kisame was a very powerful person, while Zoldyck did not take Kisame's strength into consideration. It was Naruto. Zoldyck could see with his own eyes. Naruto had no idea just how much power he had access to at the moment. This was far better than allowing him to stay in that village. Now, those who came after him was coming to end his life. There was many that seemed to desire his death. Zoldyck was going to make sure that each and every one of them knew where he was, to make him realize the true potential of what he has at his disposal. Looking into his eye once again, Zoldyck saw through space. He has to be ready before they arrive. This time around, "I will not fail," Zoldyck said, as he made his way, following after the two. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want something important to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm off and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.